Өдрийн мэнд хэрхэн хүндэт сонсогчдоо Монголын бүтээмжийн төвөөс 30 жилийнхаа зориулан сонсогч та бүхэндээ зориулан бэлтгэж байгаа бүтээмж цуврал подкастын маань ээлжит дугаар та бүхний сонирхолд хүрч байна. Өнөөдрийн дугаар онцлог. Өнөөдрийн дугаарт бид онцгой тусгай зочныг өрсөн байгаа. Юу гэвэл энэ жил Азийн Бүтээмжийн Байгууллагын 60 жилийн ой тохиож байгаа. Тийм учраас Азийн Бүтээмжийн Байгууллагын Ерөнхий нарийн бичгийн дарга ноён Мохтаныг бид өнөөдрийнхөө зочноор урьяадаг. Very good afternoon, Mr. Mохтан, dear sir. First of all, I would like to thank you for your time accepting the invitation to be guest for NPO podcast series. It's my pleasure to have the very important guest for our podcast. And today's talk will be about the 60th anniversary of APO, also about the productivity. So, as the title of the podcast is productivity, we are trying to resolve all secrets of this understanding and to promote the productivity movement in wide meaning in Mongolia. So, please welcome, floor is yours, Mr. Mохтан.
Thank you so much, and greetings everyone from Tokyo. It is a pleasure, it is an honor, and I would like to start by congratulating the Mongolia Productivity Organization and also all the stakeholders, the network organizations, and of course, the staff, dedicated staff of the Mongolia Productivity Organization. 30 years is a long journey, and the APO, in fact, has just also reached 60 this year. So this is a double celebration for us. So it's really a great honor, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. So my first question is, for the person who dedicated many years of life to develop this productivity, so also long-term expert of APO, and now Secretary General, so what is the main thing for everyone to understand under the word of productivity? And why APO was established?
Thank you. I have thought a lot about how to describe productivity. The easiest is to do more. Yeah? With the same input, the same effort, you produce more, you get the work done faster. So the simple term of productivity is do more. Mm-hmm. That can be a tagline for productivity. And why the APO was created? It was back in 1961. Although discussions about that has starting from the mid-1950s. At that time, as Asia was developing and our production capacity was low. And therefore, we need to step up the production. But this is not only a matter of production, because producing more, it is also we have to consider the input. And that is why we wanted to do more, but efficiently. And the resources that we have at that time very limited, so that we can produce much more services, goods, and that becomes a mindset to everybody.
Mm-hmm. So efficiency is very, very important word for me. And I like the word that focus on being productive instead of being busy. Yeah. Mm. So this is the word I like. And from personal point of view, from your side, what is the most important thing to be productive?
Yeah. Being productive means that you always think ahead. Mm-hmm. that you have a systematic thinking of what you do on the processes and what you expect to produce. So this is a management framework, is a time management, but this is also having a discipline on yourself, on ourselves, that we achieve, we want to have this target, we must have this target, but we need to be mindful that we have to do it in the most efficient way. That is one thing. But in terms of, we are talking about a product or a service, we also have to be mindful about the quality. Because you can produce, but if the quality is inferior, if there are so many defects, it is no meaning. So the relationship between quality and productivity is very important. The quality means actually standards. It is acceptance. It is evaluation by the consumers. This is external. Productivity is internal. It is in us, is our capacity. So, okay, I have to produce, say you have a very good, you have a restaurant. Then you can cook very well. Yeah, the quality is good. But if you produce that menu in 2 hours, then the consumer is gone. So that is the relationship. But if you just prepare it in 10 minutes, then it is not of a good quality. Customer also will not come. So this is that is one that we have to do more, but we have to also keep in mind the quality.
So I think our listeners who pay attention on this standard and balance of everything, I think. You said about discipline, which is, discipline is somehow a little bit difficult thing for Mongolia. So I want to ask about the difficulties and struggles what the APO faced at the beginning to start the production. What was the difficulties and how it went over of this?
Let's see the scope of productivity first. That the productivity will have to be not only at the individual level, but it will have to be also on the organization, on the firm level. It will also be for the public sector. So the scope of productivity, it's at individual level, organization level, but it also to be at the national level. Then since we need all these levels and stakeholders, then what we need is productivity movement, meaning that it becomes a drive to all stakeholders, to all networks, to all partners. And this is often the challenge, that productivity is confined to an organization, to a firm, to certain individuals, but it has not become a move. An example of successful movement is environment. Environmental preservation is a very successful movement. It is an awareness, it is an ownership. So that comes at the individual level, but it comes at the organization level, but it also comes at the national, even at the level of international and global. So it is a movement already. Yeah. And when you talk about discipline, yes, discipline is one of the must-have in individuals. The expectations might be different, but there are actually, we all of us go to school, and there are, say, we have to observe that we have to be at school at 8 o'clock. So we should finish our lessons in, say, 90 minutes. So that we have to achieve that, and we need to target, we need to plan, we have to achieve that. That is a simple way of discipline, and I believe everyone has it. But how do we enforce and make it, as part of our personality, as our drive? So I am confident that Mongolia also has that.
Yeah, I believe so. So
Yes.
Standard, you said about the importance of standard. So how APO is keeping these standards among productivity people, among the firm level, organization level, and among international level? How we need to keep this good standard?
Yeah. There are tools, there are techniques, there are methodology for implementing productivity activities. And this will be actually up to the users to implement and leverage on those tools. But in many instances, say the total quality management is one of the tools, or Kaizen. I'm taking the simple one example. Yeah. So there are, for example, stages. You have to do first analysis, and then you have to, what you call this. So these are the standards. But standards is basically to help. Standards is also to guide. And it is important also that you think through and add, if necessary, to adapt to the local situation, because it cannot be as it is. This is, you have to follow. Yeah. But you have to have room for adaptation. You have to have room for improvisation. You have to have room for innovations. So standard is a goal. Yeah. It's a direction, and it necessitates us to have a checklist to measure. Measuring is also important. If I type a letter, one letter in 30 minutes, then if the standard is make it into 10 minutes, then at least in 30 minutes, I can produce 3 letters. So the measurement is also important. We have to know the standard, but we have also to measure how is the progress, how is our performance. So that is my view on standard. It is basically to direct and to guide, but we need also to always be creative in how we innovate and how we improvise, so it will be useful to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just said about also important to base on local condition and local situation. Yeah, so Asia is a big continent with huge population, but the countries in Asia are very different from each other from the social and economic level. So then you are, for example, from Indonesia, and yes. I would like to ask about the experience of Indonesia, one of the biggest countries in Asia. Now, how your country, for example, fostered the economic growth using productivity. So what will be advice for Mongolia?
Yeah. So in fact, that is one of our strengths, to have diversity. And this is where best practices, whether the sharing of experiences, are very useful. Then our one of the purpose of the APO is to learn together. And some of our member countries are in the advanced economies. They have what you call this reach a very high level of maturity in terms of economic growth, and that is where we can learn from them. One example is Japan. The techniques, the tools, the methodology of productivity in Japan has been continuously improved, and that is where we can share. And in the case of Indonesia, it is basically the same principle. As I said, do more, but efficiently, and use our resources effectively. Be mindful about the quality. We, in our manufacturing, for example, we can produce and we have perhaps a market, but then we have to be able to also make that price competitive, because then otherwise it can be the products from Japan will be superior, for example. And therefore the quality, and that is a new term, and that is competitiveness. It's important. So productivity, quality, and competitiveness come into play. And here is basically, again, come back to utilization of your resources, if that becomes our input. So that is, yes, we are diverse, but to me, diversity is a strength, and this is where we can learn from one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you for this advice. It's very important. And also, APO is now paying attention more on green productivity and agroecology, which is the very big issue, very important topic for global winning. So with this current direction of work, what will be the biggest opportunity for Mongolia to develop in economics?
Yeah. So let me just touch upon the history of the green productivity. It was back in the early 1990s. We would recall there was the global summit, the Rio summit in 1992, in which actually there was a call to save the environment. And we supported, the world supported, but our niche of contributions is actually remains in the productivity field. And what does it mean? It means how is the input and the output, and in between there is a waste, that is unutilized or excess, and how that excess or how that waste becomes input again. So then we can have a kind of a cycle. Now, the earlier term will be to recycle, reuse, reduce, and this becomes now the circular economy. And I agree with you that now this global challenge has intensified. And it has become a global concern because, say, for example, global warming threatens not only one or two particular countries, but it affects the entire human being. And in fact, it affects the entire planet, including the biodiversity and the ocean, water, soil. So what we need to do, what we are thinking is making up green productivity to be more relevant. At the global international level, the United Nations, the UN is leading with the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And each country has identified the goals and that which they would like to contribute. Now, we are also upgrading green productivity, becomes green productivity 2.0. What does it mean? Is actually we are tapping also after the Rio back in 1992, and that is exactly the same with the MPO of Mongolia. This was about 30 years ago. This will be 30 years. And the technology has advanced. Then we have all these advantages of the digitalization. So what we want to do with GP 2.0 is actually a smart GP, smart green productivity, utilizing, leveraging the new technologies and contributing to the SDGs. So we need to connect with the international efforts. And another important requirement is that we need to have the ownership of the stakeholders. And this will be a very important requirement. It is like the movement. We cannot be only the national productivity organizations or the specific ministry. It will have to be the citizens. It will have to be nationally, even the youth and the young. So that is about green productivity.
So NPO will do all to promote the green productivity on national level. It's,
yes.
From our team, it's like a promise.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
And our talk is almost at the end, but I would like to ask about your opinion about Mongolia, country itself and people.
Yeah, I would say it is a very, very admirable country.
Thank you.
Mongolia has a very long, proud history. It is such a beautiful country, but we have to visit, we have to see it with our own eyes to appreciate and to really admire, how awesome is Mongolia. My last visit was last year in January, and it was in the middle of winter. I was quite brave. I thought I was coming from Indonesia. In Indonesia, it's about 30 degrees, when in Ulaanbaatar it was -30. So it's a difference of 60 degrees. But it was so beautiful. Yeah. And beautiful is a blessing. The most important is I've seen also the progress, how Ulaanbaatar has grown, and then the shops, the industry, the activities. I think that is a very encouraging sign of progress. At that time, you were preparing to move to a new airport. I think maybe you have moved already.
Just open.
So, but what it means is that you need to prepare. As the country is progressing, the demand of the consumer, the requirement of the people also increases. It's services, the services industry, for example, the hotel, the restaurants, the banking, the banking system. You have to always innovate. And I am actually very encouraged that I've met a number of friends from Mongolia. who has served and joined us as a resource person. She was the winner of the National Productive Award as well. So Mongolia has to be more active. And I would like to see more Mongolian experts joining us. We have received many Mongolian participants, but I would like to promote Mongolia as also resource persons to other member countries. And I would like to see us work together in promoting Mongolia. And so this is not about a beautiful country, but a beautiful, productive, and competitive country. That's my wish for Mongolia.
Oh, thank you very much. Mongolian Productivity Organization is 30 years, reaching 30 years, but still we need to learn a lot. We need to develop ourselves. So I believe we will soon meet in Mongolia with the achievements of green productivity, or as you wishing for Mongolia, maybe with the new resource persons. So your next visit will be, I think, full of satisfaction. And please come again to Mongolia. So thank you very much, Mr. Mохтан.
Thank you.
Our talk was very interesting for our listeners, and about productivity movement. Mongolian Productivity Organization will do everything to promote this movement throughout the country. Thank you, and one more time on behalf of all our audience and listeners, congratulate APO with the 60th anniversary, and everyone and each and everyone who were engaged and who are engaged now to this wonderful initiative and this movement with the anniversary. All the best to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And the same to you. Congratulations. And please rest assured that the APO will continue to support Mongolia. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
За ингээд хэрхэн сонсогчдоо өнөөдрийн маань дугаар үгээр өндөрлөж байна. Тэгэхээр Азийн Бүтээмжийн төвийн Ерөнхий нарийн бичгийн дарга ноён Мохтаны яриа та бүхэн сонирхолтой байсан гэж итгэж байна. Тэгэхээр хүн болгон өнөөдрийн ярьсанчлан одоо өөрийнхөө бодит их сурвалжийг үр дүнтэйгээр ашиглаад өөрийгөө хөгжүүлж ихийг бүтээхийн төлөө хамтдаа зүтгэцгээе. Ингээд Монголын Бүтээмжийн төвийн 30 жилийн ойн мэндийг та бүхэндээ дахин дэвшүүлье. Дараагийн дугаар хүртэл баяртай баярлалаа.